I was just starting recording because the other guys had to cancel. Okay. Uh, okay. So yesterday, what we looked at is we looked at how to create our first chart, right? We looked at how to import data. So the first stage in Power BI is always, importing the data set. And if you see over here, if you see you do see a lot of option. When you click on this more button, you can see Excel, you can see CSV, right? You can see folders, you can see all the types of database. You can import Power BI datasets as well. I'll explain that what does Power BI dataset mean. So if you see over here, right from a website to a SharePoint to a database, it supports a lot of data sources. It supports LinkedIn as well, so you can import data from LinkedIn, right? You can do R or Python, and so any data source that you would think, unless it's a very custom made application in your company, you can import data from there. Okay, so for now, for the sake of simplicity, as I have shared the data set with you all, this is the data set that mostly we'll be working with. uh, and if you have any other data sets, we can use those data sets in coming days as well. So these are the three tabs that we see. Okay, so with these three tabs, we say load the data. So whenever I click on this tab, I see a sample of 20 rows, right, with the column name and everything. So, and as I move on the right side, I see all the values present in it. So I say load. It takes a bit of time to load. So now that you see that the three tabs that those were present in our Excel were orders, peoples, and return, and every tab translates into a table, right? So every tab translates into a table, and let's say I want to see which are the column names. I can just open this, and I can see all the column names that are present over here. And now, if you see the the first observation that anyone can make is that whenever it's a text-based column, it does not have uh, any symbols attached to it. So it's a purely text-based column. The columns which can be aggregated, like any numerical columns, are present with the aggregation sign in front of it, right? And apart from that, if there is any date column, it has a calendar in front of it. So those are the three symbols that you can always think of. Those symbols represents the column type. Okay, so based on that column type, we can judge whether it's a numerical column or a categorical column. Now, moving ahead, what we will do is that this is the data view that we see. Now, in this data view, what we see is just like an Excel. You can see all the rows and the columns that are present over here. And if I click on people table, I see people data. If I click on returns table, I see the returns data. And then let's say I want to see what are the different kind of values that are present. So let's say for city column, I want to know which are the unique values, right, in the city. I can open this and I can see all the unique list of values that are present over there, right? So that's way you can do a quick check of your data, right? So you can see and get and feel, right, how the data is. Okay, and when you go to this model view, right, you can see what are the different tables and what are the different columns. So we'll have a dedicated two session or one session for this, but for now just understand that this is more of a joining tables kind of view, where you can create a relationship or establish a relationship between two columns, and based on that you create a calculation. So that is a basic concept of data warehousing that we will come to that bridge, and will will discuss that on that day. Okay, but for now just think this is a relationship view, this is a data view, and this is a report view. In this report view, you drag and drop all the visualizations and create dashboards, right? So that's the way you can go about it. Now, the first chart that you could think of is a stacked bar chart, right? So these are the types of visualizations that you can think of. So take this one. So as you select this one, a box appears and you can move it across. You can make it smaller, bigger, right? And yes, Ajinkya. Zoom, I can make it. Okay. So this is how you can use it. Okay. And now what we will do is we can take any columns that we want. So as we have learned in our school, right, we have x-axis and y-axis. The horizontal one is x-axis, the vertical one is y-axis. So I'll take this category and put into x-axis. Okay. And it has taken as count, which I don't want. So I'll just say category in y-axis, and then I say discount in x-axis, right? And I can make it a little bigger. So as you can see that this is how you can create your first chart in Power BI. Okay. So we have x-axis, we have y-axis, and we have plotted the values. And based on that, we see some kind of chart that is present over here. Now, Now let's look at our data set, right? So when we look at our data set, we see postal code, right? And this postal code does not make sense. Like this shouldn't be a numerical column in nature. Because if I use postal code in my visualizations, I the sum of postal code or the average of postal code does not make any sense. It's more of a categorical column in nature. So if I want to change the data type or the column type, I can just simply click on it, and instead of a whole number I say text, right? And now it is coming as text. So this is how you can change. And along with that, let's say you want to change this row id as well. So click on this row id, and as you click on any column, you see the column tools appear over here, right? So if I want to change the name from row id to just id, I can change it id, right? And now again, the row ID represents the row number of the column. Again, the average row ID, sum of row ID, does not make any sense like the average of profit or average of sales would do. So again, I would change it to a text, right? So that's how. Yes. Yes. No, 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 sir. Please, please. Yeah, yeah. Right, right, right. Mm-hmm. 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 No, right, right. So when you refresh it, it identifies it as row ID, but when you bring it in Power BI, it will translate it to ID. So your data source will not have any impact to your Power BI. But if the other way, right? So instead of changing in Power BI, so changing the name in Power BI won't create any harm for you. Okay. But if you change the name in Excel, that would create a refresh issue for you. Like your data source has a column name change, that will give error in your refresh. But if you change the name in Power BI, it will not have any impact to your data source or data refresh. Yeah, yeah. And also, I will talk about how you can handle the change of name at source. So we'll come to that. So we'll definitely discuss this in detail again. But thanks, that's a very good question. Thank you, Mohin. So yeah, so this is how you can rename the columns. And now, if you see, now whenever I create a chart, you will always have some options that are present over here, like y-axis, x-axis, legend, small multiples, and tooltips, right? So we'll try to dissect what does every aspect means, right? So let's look at legend first, right? So in this legend, what does a legend do is that whenever you create a bar chart, if you want to split that bar chart again in few other details, you do it using legend, right? So you take this segment and put it into legend. Okay, so what happens now that your bar has now again bifurcated into consumer, corporate, and home office, right? So as I hover on it, I see that there is a category, there is a segment, and there is a sum of discount, right? So the discount sum won't make sense. I need to do the average, because discount values, if I go in my data set and if I see discount which is present over here, right? So the discount ideally ranges from 0 to zero point 0.8, meaning that we have given discount from 0 to 80%. So that's the range. So ideally I should be doing average rather than sum, because sum of discount would not make much of a sense, because it's a percent value. So what I would do is, on this, whenever you are using any aggregations, these are the type of aggregations that you can do. You have average, you have minimum, maximum, distinct count, standard deviation, variance, and median. So we know what standard deviation or variance means or median means, but for now we'll just do average. And as I do average, the values would change, right? And for every category and for every segment, I can see, for furniture, for segment, what is my average discount, right? For home office, for office supplies, what is my average discount? So this is how you can see category wise, segment wise average of discount. So you have your y-axis, you have your x-axis, and along with that you have a legend in front of you. Okay, so this is how you create your first chart. And now you have another option that are present over here, which is small multiples, right? So what does small multiples do? That it again splits your chart into multiple categories. How? We'll see that. Okay. So let's take the ship mode and put it into small multiples. Now I'll quickly go again and see what my data looks like for ship mode, right? So if I go to ship mode, there are four distinct values for ship mode, which is first class, same day, second class, standard class, right? So how do we ship? There are four different categories that carrier offers. Based on that, I have small multiples, and now I see all of that for every specific category of ship mode. So for the discount which was shipped on same day for furniture, what was the average discount? So for same day category, how much discount that we have given for technology, for corporate, right? So we take that one value of discount and we are breaking it apart by category, by segment, and by ship mode, and we are seeing the average of it. So that is actually giving us very good insight that if I look at it, I see that furniture has seen a lot of discount compared to other categories. Technology has the most minimum in first class, second class, and standard class, whereas same day office supplies have seen the lowest discount. So this is how you can create your first chart using your y-axis, x-axis, legend, and small multiples. Uh, Word of caution over here is that the small multiples, whenever you use it, should have a very lesser distinct values, right? So instead of a ship mode, if I see product name instead of in small multiples, what would happen is that it would become a huge chart. Okay, so let's say instead of ship mode, I add a product name over here, and if you see now it is creating chart for every single product category. Does not make sense, right? So that's how you can use your small multiples. So I'll remove product name and I'll add ship mode again. So we try to simplify whenever we are creating visuals, we try to simplify things in order to make it more interesting and more engaging to your users. So that's how you can create your chart. Now, the last option that is present over here is tooltips, right? So, what does tooltip mean? Now, in Power BI context, the tooltip is when you hover on the chart, the specific part of the chart. What do you see in that specific um, part of the chart, right? So when I hover on same day furniture, so it tells me in ship mode is same day, category is furniture, for segment home office, my average discount is 16%. If I hover on other part, it again changes and shows the data relevant to that part. So as I move across this chart, the values change based on where I'm hovering at. So let's say along with this, if I want to add any other aggregated value, okay, so I want to add, let's say, how much profit I have made along with the discount. So what I can do, I can take this profit and put it into tooltip, and now when I hover on it, I see the sum of profit as well, right? I see average discount, sum of profit. So I can visualize, or I can see, okay, this is how the things are in my tooltip. So people would always be asking the more and more data. So we can add sales to it, we can add quantity to it, and as we hover on it, you would see all of those values that are present over there. Okay, so this is how you can use or create your first chart with using legends, tooltips, and small multiples. Any questions over here? Okay, so the another thing I wanted to talk about is that we looked at renaming columns in Power BI dataset, right? We renamed it over here, but along with that, we can rename within visuals as well. Okay, so here we say category. So instead of category, I would say uh, cat one. Okay, so it will not rename the column name over here, but it will just remain within the visual, right? So for this visual, I can just say, instead of category, I can just say cat one. Okay, and here it shows average of discount. So on y-axis, sorry, x-axis, you see average of discount. I just want to say not average of discount, just discount, right? So I would just say discount. Now if you see, it is changed. So what you can do is, within that measure, sorry, within that chart, you can rename the values of the columns that are you are plugging in there. Okay, so that's how you can do it. Now instead of segment, I don't want to say anything, so I'll just create a dot and I'll press enter. So the segment name disappears and it just shows consumer, corporate, and home office. Right? So this is how you can change small things. Now in tooltips as well, sum of profit, sum of sales, you don't want to show that, right? You just want to say what is profit, what is sales. So you can again rename this. You say profit, you say sales, and you want to say quantity, right? So rename this visual quantity. And here you go, right? You see profit, you see sales, and you see quantity. So that's how you can transform your visual naming as well for your dashboarding experience. So you can be very specific about it. You can change the names as you want to. Now that we are going ahead, uh, let's, yes, Mohit, yeah, right. Hmm. Right. Sure, sure. Again, a great question. So let's say you want to figure out which column, then you can just hover on it and it will tell you that it is coming from orders segment. It is coming from orders discount. It is coming from category. So you can hover on it, and as you hover on it, you will see where the source of the column name is. Shripad, do you have a question? Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, so that's how you can hover on it and you can see the reference of the chart name. Now going ahead, uh, we think of customization, right? So in how many ways you can actually customize your chart? You can change the color, you can change the x-axis, y-axis, range. You can do a lot of things. So let's just take one by one. So you click on a chart, okay? So as you click on a chart, the first thing before that I wanted to show you is uh, filters on this visuals. So we are yet to cover the filters, but filters and slicers which are affecting your chart, you can see it from over here. Okay. If you want to enlarge your visual, you can see this focus mode. So this becomes even bigger. This is for your own analysis and understanding. So here you can see, you know, the in the focus mode you can change the zoom type as well. Okay, and again I'll go back. So focus mode helps you to understand what's happening right in your chart. The next is more option, those three dots. So let's say you want to export this specific data into Excel. You can do it using export data and the CSV file that you're able to download, right? So, and it tells me by the chart title. So for now, the chart title is discount, profit and sales and quantity. By category one, the dot that I have added and the ship mode. Okay. So I'll say save. And now when I go to my desktop and I see that CSV file is taking some time. So I can see all the values, right? So I can see for this category, for this segment, and for this ship mode. So by these three numbers, I can see all the average of discount, profit, and sales. So whenever you would be creating a dashboard, there would be some adamant leader who would say, "No, I want to download this data into Excel, or I want to see everything in Excel." So that's how they can have that flexibility for themselves. Okay, so whenever you create a chart, you can just say export to export data, and be mindful that it does not actually exports in Excel, but it exports in CSV, which you can open in Excel. Okay, so that's how you can do it. And then if you want to show it as table, this again looks like a table, so it's like a pivot that is present. I'll show it again. So over here, show as a table, and when you say show as a table, it looks exactly like that, right? So that's how these are the functionalities. You can remove it. Okay, you can do a spotlight on them. So if I add another chart, right, and I just add two plugins to it, right, and I say spotlight, so this chart gets highlighted for some. So if you want to do that, you can do it using spotlight, and then you can sort it using multiple categories using ascending or descending order, right? So you can sort this in ascending or descending order, all of them, by either alphabetically or by numerical case. So let's say I want to sort small multiples, ship mode, and then it will get sorted in the descending order. And then I want to do it ascending, it will get sorted in the ascending order. So first class come first, then same day, second day, second class. So standard class. So that's how you can do it. Now let's think of a ways you can customize the chart. So you can customize it using a paintbrush option that you see over here. So whenever you click on this format visual, right, in this format visual you would see y-axis, right? So in this y-axis, the values of y-axis, right, so furniture, office supplies, right, so you can increase it or decrease it. So this font of your y-axis you can change, the color of that you can change, right? You want to make it little bold, you want to make it little italic, focus on this part, right? So you want to make it underlined, all of that possible, right? And then you can switch the axis position. So instead of on the extreme left, you want to add it on the right, you can do that, right? Now you would think that where it could be applied, but it has a lot many applications, right? And the next is title. So for this title, right now it shows cat 1, which we have renamed it, but you can rename it to anything, category 2. And again, the category 2 appears over here. So you can rename a different, like in tooltip it will show it as cat 1, as you have said. But here, if I want to put a different name, I can show that title in the y-axis as well. Okay, so that's how you can play around with the y-axis options. Same goes with x-axis, but the x-axis is numerical in nature, right? So whenever we say numerical range, we can have a minimum and maximum. So I can say I do not want anything less than zero point 0.2, so I want my start chart to start from zero point 0.2. So I can do that, right? Or let's say instead of discount, I would look at sales. Okay, and I would add sales over here, and here I would say in x-axis I would not look at let's say 1000 or 2000. Right? So as I can increase or decrease, the range changes. So this is how you can do it. And same goes for maximum. I do not want to see anything except anything that is beyond this number. So you can sort that, or change that range, right? You can invert the range over here. So I'll just remove it. Invert the range. So just like shifting axis, you can shift the axis on the other side as well. And then shared x-axis. So right now it has just one x-axis, which is over here. But along with that, you want to also show x-axis over here as well. So you say skill shade off, and then it does not have a shared axis. Okay. Then you have values. So on that values, again, you can change the font. You can increase it, decrease it. You can have bold, italic, right? E- And then color of those, the display units, right? So it is showing in millions, but I want to just show it in thousands, right? So it will show in thousands. If I want to show in billions, it will show how much billion is that. So for now, it's always a good practice to use either none or auto, if you are very sure about the range. And then values to decimal place, I want to just say 1. If I keep it 2, then instead of zero point 0.4 million, it will say 0.40 million. And again, in the x-axis, you can add title as well. So whichever title as you may please. Uh, and then in the style, you want to say title and unit only. So let's take sales values, right? And I want to say unit only. So it is in millions. So for now, I've selected millions. And if I say show both, so title and millions. So sales value, the title I've added, and millions, which I can have specified over here, right? Auto. So that's how you can show it over here. So this is how you can play with x-axis and y-axis. So as you can see, there are million ways you can create one single chart. The next part is legend. So for now, the legend is this consumer, corporate, and home office. The position is top left. I want to keep it top center, top right, right, top left stack. So so you can change the position again as and how you want it, right? The next is text. So in the text, that is this consumer, corporate, and home office, you can make it bigger or smaller. And then again, the title of the segment. If you don't want to show any title, just remove it, keep it off, and then there won't be any title to it. So this is how small things you can do in legend. Again, with small multiples. So there are four distinct values. So by default, it has padded two rows, two columns, right? So instead of two rows, two columns, I just say four values, four rows. So then there is no data over here because the small multiple has just four distinct values. If I just say one column, then there will be four rows but one column. So you can change the length of the matrix as in the way you want to, right? The four and one sounds good to me, right? So this is how you can do it. You can create a chart, you can add a legend, you can change the names. And then you have grid lines. So you can add a grid line. So the style is dotted. So if you see, this is the grid line along with 2 million, 3 million, point 3 million. You can change the color to dark black. It will not look good, but it will be there. You can increase the width, right? Um, so this is how you can do it. If you want to do it, the grid line part, then you have bars. And now let's say you want to change the color, right? So consumer has a different color. So if I take, let's say, this color, right, this color, and this color. Now let's say if you're working for a company presentation, and you work for a company, let's say Deloitte, right, and they have a standard format for creating color codes and everything, and they make sure that they want to use their green, right? And they want to make sure that the green has to be specific. So their specific green you can take. You can take this go to consumer, and in more colors, you can add that RGB code, whichever they are using, right? And that specific color would appear over here. So that is possible when you go open and say more colors, and in more colors, you just add the hex code or RGB code, either one of them, right? Or you can play around and get your own color using this option over here. So it's up to you how do you want to use it. But it would be a good idea if you use that specific RGB code to make sure that the color is consistent with the PowerPoint format that they have established as their part of corporate branding, right? So you want to be consistent with that corporate bonding branding, then you would use something like this. The next part is the spacing. So the spacing is space between the two charts. So if you make it 0, there won't be any space. If you add more, then you would have a lot of space, right? So ideal is always 20, right? 20 or 15, and then minimum category width you can increase, right, or decrease. So with this, the fatness of that chart. Then data labels. So data labels again very necessary. So I keep it on, and if you see, I can see the data label present over here. I can set the position to inside end, right, or inside center, or inside base. So wherever you think would make sense, you can add that, okay? Or you just keep it dynamic based on the chart size, it will appear. And the values, again, which what is the font, and how would you increase or decrease, right? So if you want to make it change the font, um, you want to make sure that it overflows text, you can keep it on. Is there any custom label? uh, okay, Moin. Uh, so this is how you can add a custom label over here. And the next part is the background, right? So is there any background color that you want to add? Then you can change the background color based on the transparency. So if you increase the transparency, there will be complete blank, and if you reduce it, it will be the absolute color, right? So that's how you can change it, the background color. And then the plot area background, right? So any plot area background, you want to add any image to it, you can add an image to it. So quickly, you can add any image. So I'll go to pictures, and in that picture, if I add this Batman image, I can add this image in the background, right? So that's how you can see a nice chart. It's not now, but like if you add a good image that supplements your background, right? It will look really cool and it will look really fancy. So that's how you can add a plot area background, and yeah. So this is how you can create this one chart, and there are so many ways you can customize it, right? The other options that we have in chart is the properties. So in this, you can change the height and width. So height is this vertical part, width is the horizontal part. I can manually change it, or change it using this part, or I can change the height by typing. Let's say I want to keep it 700 and width is 800. So accordingly, the chart will reshape, right? The next is position. So right now it's horizontally and vertically at 0 position, but if I say 10, the chart will move, right? If I say 100, again it will move by 1000 or 100 points. Vertically again, keep it 20, so it will come down a little bit. Now this is not very much useful now, it seems, but when you are creating charts with hundreds of images in it, or hundreds of visuals in it, you want to make it very useful using this position. Okay, so this is how you can do. And then title of the chart, so title would say sales analytics. I would just put it like this, sales analytics. So this is how I can do it. And then Based on that, I can add as many values, change the text of the color, horizontal alignment, right? So I can change the position, and I can add things. Then I can add subtitle as well if I want. Subtitle would be uh, orders data, and then again I would add all those things. I can add a divider as well. So divider would add extra line between them. So yeah, and then there are some effects options present over here. They add so many options that are some are news to me as well. Like, oh, they have added this one as well. Okay, so that's how it goes for me. So if I add a visual border, so if you see now the chart has a border to it, right? And then again I go in general and I go to effects. I can add a shadow, so your chart feels like it has a shadow to it. If you see over here, so that's how you can change things. You can add a shadow, and then header icons. So okay, so the header icons are these icons, and you can change the background borders and icons. um, and then if I go to icons, it shows me visual information, visual warning, so all those options. So this is how, with all these options, that you can format your chart. So Moin, you haven't missed much. So we're just going through the properties tab. So it just you can change the height and width of it. You can change the horizontal and vertical position, right? You can change the title name over here, and you can add a subtitle name as well. So very small things, peculiar things you can think of. The effect part is really good, where you can add a background, uh, and then you can have a visual border and shadow. So if I remove shadow, it it has a it will remove that shadow, but if you add it, it looks really cool. Like it feels like your chart has a shadow to it. So that's how you can add some things to your chart. So it is more of customizing it and making it unique in your own way. So this is how you can create your first chart in Power BI. Yeah, thank you, Moin. Now if you see, I can add as many pages I want. So whenever you would publish a report, it will have 4 pages to it. You can rename the page by right clicking, rename, right? So I would say beta 2, whatever. I would say summary tab, maybe rename summary. And let's say I want to duplicate this page, I can just click and say duplicate page, and the page would get duplicated, right? And I can rename it to any other name that I want. So that's how you can rename a page. You can duplicate a page. Okay. So this is how you can create charts. So now that we know how to create a one single chart, we will talk about some other things. So let's take now. Let's say I create a simple chart. We discuss like it, right? So it has category and profit. I'll copy this. So you can copy the chart by clicking on it and Control C, Control V, right? And you have another chart present over here, right? And now when you click on this chart, let's say I instead of category I add ship mode, right? So add ship mode, right? In this y-axis. So I have ship mode and profit. I have category and profit. Now let's say if I click on this technology, my second chart changes in accordance with it, right? So for very specific data of technology, now what it is saying when I hover on it, it tells me that for ship mode the total profit is 1,64,000, but out of which 83,000 is coming in the highlighted, meaning that for category technology 83,000 profit is coming just from there. Okay, so if I click on office supplies, again it gets highlighted and it tells me that 70,000 profit is coming from office supplies. Meaning what's happening over here is that as I click on the chart, the other chart changes, right? You seems like if I click on this chart, it tells me, these values are also highlighting. So this is how what you call in Power BI is the interactivity between the visuals. So between visuals, you are able to interact, right? Now what we'll do is that I'll click on this chart and I'll click on format, okay? And I would say edit interactions. I'll tell you the importance of it. Okay, so when you say edit interactions, what happens is that uh, you click on one chart and you say none, okay, and then if I change it, there are no changes happening to the relative chart. If I say highlight, which was default setting, I can go back to what it was default, right? And the third option is filter. So based on that, I can change the values as I want, right? So this is how you can change things in Power BI. So think of ways where you would have a filter present on your dashboard with seven charts, and someone says to you that if I change my slicer, it should not impact two charts, but rest of the five charts I want to see all the changes, right? So for that change, what you can do is you can play around with edit interactions, right? Now, even though I have said that, I click on this and no chart value should change, if I click on this, this is still changing, right? So I have changed the reference from clicking over here and changing the values in the reference to this chart. But when I click on this, I need to again change the settings and say none. So in that situation, my charts won't change even in both of the cases. So you would have to do that in relative to every chart if you want to do it. If you don't want that highlight filter to be, in accordance to change, or you can keep it the default setting. But this is one of the feature that you should be mindful of. Okay. Any questions on this? Okay. So we'll move ahead. The next part that I want to talk about is I'll create another simple chart. So as you can see, these are the types of visualization. We looked at this stack bar chart. Let's look at stack column chart. So stack column chart is quite similar in nature, but instead of horizontal view, it gives me, instead of vertical view, I can see the things horizontal, right? So this is how I can see things. Now, again, it has the same legend, multiples, and tooltip, and it functions it in a same way. Okay, so that's how. What I would recommend is that if you get a time, explore these two charts that we have covered today. Look at the format options, and along with that, you look at other charts as well. Right? They are quite similar in nature. I'll quickly explain to you what these charts also mean. So if you say clustered bar chart, right? So I take this category over here. Yes, Mohit. Yeah, definitely, definitely. So let's see this chart. So I would say these six charts. So I'll take category and I'll take region, right? And I'll take sales, and now I copy this and paste it. And now over here, instead of now creating a chart over again, you can just simply click on this stacked bar chart, right? So if you see, we are looking at first and third chart, right? So first and third chart. So if you see, the only difference in the visual is that the legend is stacked here. So my region is stacked, and in this case, the region is clustered. So that's why that they have named stacked bar chart and clustered bar chart. So that's the only difference between these two. So you can, when you want to show things in stacked manner, you can use stacked bar chart, and when you want to show things like we are showing over here in a clustered manner, you can show it accordingly. So that's the only difference between these two. And now the these two charts, right? So again, I take this chart and I click on this, right? I select this chart and I click on this. So that's the beauty of Power BI, that once you create, you can either copy it or change the visual type, and accordingly it changes. So now if you see again, it is the vertical stack bar chart and it is vertical clustered bar chart. So that's the only difference. If you want to show things horizontally, you can use this. If you want to show things vertically, you can use these. So these are the four differences between these four categories of chart. The next one is the 100% stack bar chart. So 100% stack bar chart is little different in nature. So let's take category over here, right? And let's take sales, right? So what you see right now, and I'll just say this type of, so you see some difference. So this visual, without a legend, okay, it's the first category. You have category and sum of sales, and this 100% stack bar chart is also the same, have same category and sum of sales. But what difference do you see in both of them is that it has 100% values in it. Like the 100% stack bar chart would always have 100% column values to it, and then you add a segment in legend, and then it splits that 100% into how much percent each of that distribution is. So if you want to show how your data is distributed horizontally, you can use this kind of 100% stack bar chart. So it will always be 0 to 100%. And then if you want to show how is that split happening across your 100%, that's when you use 100% stack bar chart. And then if you copy and paste it, and over here if you use 100% stack column chart, again it's vertical in nature, but again it's 0 to 100. So that's the whole difference between those six charts. So 100% stack means that you would always have value from 0 to 100, and then you can add a legend to it to show how does that distribution varies across all these three categories. So this is how you can show your like these are the six charts. So what I would recommend is that take a look at those six charts, try to create it, right? Try to replicate those charts, okay? And we'll see how if you're able to do it. So things that we covered today is, first is how to create a basic chart, how to add legend, how to add tooltips, how to add small multiples. Also we looked at interactivity between visuals, how you can change the interactivity between visuals. When you click on any one chart, you can go to format and you say edit interactions, and you can change the interactivity, right? So that's how you can go about it. The last topic for today I want to start with is filters. So the ways you can do filtering in data is huge, right? There are many ways you can actually filter your data. We'll start with few, right? So as you click on any chart, right? So this is the filter pane that appears over here, right? As you click on this chart, you see filters on this visual, filters on this page, and filters on all pages. So these are the three distinct types of filters. We'll go through it one by one, right? So if I click on this chart and I go here and I just say office supplies, right? Or if I just say furniture. So what's happening over here is that when I go and see this filters on this visual, it tells me that the filter that is being applied is either is on category, and it says either office supplies or furniture, right? So this is a visual level filter. So whichever are the combinations, right? So filter sorry, your filter has whichever components of it. So components of these charts are category, sales, and segment. So you can select all of them, like the all of those categories, segment, and sales are present by default in your visual layer filter. So for now, this is the default state that I have not applied any filter, right? So this is how you can see it. Let's say you want to add filter of region to it, so you can take and add it over here, and you can say east, south, or central, right, or all of them. So even though region is not component of this, you can add region level filter at visual level stage. Okay. So this is the first category of filter, visual level filter. Okay. Or you can also do it with sum of sales. So I can say any sales which is greater than 10. I just want to see that, right? And then my data would get filtered. I can change the number to 100, and again I can add that, right? So I looked at two categories of filter, which is either categorical filter, text based filter, or a numerical range filter, right? So I can look at both of them. So this is a visual level filter. I can remove this filter again, okay, and I can apply many filter as I want. So I take segment, I say region is just central, and then category is furniture and office supplies only. So I can apply filters as many as I want in the visual level filter, but be sure that this is just a visual level filter, right? So whatever filters that I'm applying are just being applied at a visual level. So this is my visual, so this is visual level filter. Now if I want to say that I want to make a, I'll change this chart type to this one. Now let's say I want to apply the filter on the entire page. Okay, so whichever visuals that come on this page, I want to apply filters. So I take, let's say, ship mode, and I add it to filters on the page. And then if I say first class, so what happens? Both of the charts, or whichever charts that are present over here, gets changed. And let's say I add a new visual after applying this filters on this page, is that I take this chart, okay, and I take the ship mode, and I take the profit, right? So if you see, I have just applied two levels of filters, and only two levels of filters I see: first class and uh, same day. So if I remove it, I'll see all of them. Otherwise, I can just see same day and second day. So this is how you can apply filters on this page level, right? So we looked at page level, we looked at report level. We looked at page level, we looked at visual level. The third is the filters on all pages. So this is called as the report level filter. So as many pages that I create, right, I can apply that filter, right? So I remove this filter for now. I add ship mode, and I say filters on all pages, and I just say I want to see data for first class, and then I go on another page, right? I take a ship mode, I would only see first class, right? So on this visual type, and I would take sales only, right? So I would only see first class across all pages. So this is how you can apply a filter, okay, across pages. So we looked at visual level filter, a report level filter, and a page level filter. So there are many ways, 10 to 15 ways you can filter data. For now, we just looked at three ways or four ways of filtering data: page level, report level, and um, visual level. And along with that, interactivity between visual. You can again filter your data according to that. So these are the some ways you can do it. I would explain the other in the upcoming sessions, but I would say this is something that you can practice for today. Because we are starting, I don't want to throw a lot of information at you. This is This is like you can practice it anytime in the week or today or before our next sessions, and let me know if you have any questions about it. Okay, and then in the upcoming sessions we'll take the filters part in more detail way, and we'll cover the rest of the visuals as well. Okay, now having said that, if there are no questions we can stop it for today, and